Okay, looks like we're live. Hey everybody, welcome to a Tuesday morning podcast. So in this video today, we're going to be talking all things on-page SEO. SEO is one of those topics that there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of sort of information out there and misinformation about what works. And the reality is Google's constantly changing the goalposts. So there's a lot of information out there that was once relevant, that's not relevant anymore. And look, it's forever just one of those spaces where you're never going to know the complete picture. So what I'm going to do today is just kind of break down, if you're just starting a new website, if you're just starting, your business, and you want to, start structuring things the right way to start seeing some rankings in Google eventually, that this is the best way to go for it as far as structuring your on-page content. Okay, so before we jump into sort of SEO and sort of getting your page rankings, I'm going to do another video tomorrow about site structure and keyword cannibalization, because whilst getting your on-page SEO right is important, if you haven't structured your website and your sort of content in a manner that it's easy for Google to understand, and more importantly, easy for the users to understand, then you'll find you'll have pages competing with each other, and so it'll be harder to rank. So today's going to be all about how to structure the individual page, and then tomorrow we'll talk about how you use those individual pages and topics within your site structures, give yourself the best chance of actually ranking in Google. So when it comes to on-page SEO, a few things to start with. We recommend using WordPress. We love WordPress and Elementor as a page builder. When we're using the Astra theme, I think Elementor's just brought out their new Hello theme. But they're just tools you can take to the bank that you can trust. We're going to use the Yoast plugin as well. Okay. Now, there's a lot of other plugins, and here's the thing with SEO. Every time somebody in this space says that something's better, than there's 100 other people, or 1,000,000 other people, I should say, saying that this other tool's better. So just use what's easy, and they all work at the end of the day. And don't confuse yourself by trying to find the next best sort of tool or plugin and these sort of things. Just find what works. Enough people are using this and have been using it for a long time, and the Yoast plugin is pretty proven. So using the Yoast plugin on your website is how we're going to do this. And just a quick note, over at the Marketing HQ on your Marketing Crew website, I will be filming a video over the coming sort of day or so where I'll actually do a walkthrough video. So today's going to be about the theory, and then I'll record that video and I'll upload that into the Marketing HQ, where you can watch that training live and actually implement it step by step. So let's jump into on-page structure. So the first thing obviously you want to do is identify your keywords, and I'll do another video on that this week at some stage, keyword research. But for the sake of this video, let's assume we understand the keyword that we want to target. So the first thing you want to do with a keyword on your page is, ideally, if you can get it in the domain, fantastic, but that's not always the case. But the second thing you want is, you really want your keyword in the page title and the page URL. So if you're using WordPress, this is really easy to do. It's when you're either building a page, or whether you're building or you're sort of putting a blog online, it's really easy to change the page title and the URL structure to incorporate that keyword. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to take care of. Now, the URL structure, look, again, there's been a lot of debate whether or not that's relevant these days, but I've just come off a webinar from our masterclass, one of my masterclasses in the SEO space last night, where they were talking all about the fact that actually having the keyword in the URL structure is proving to be a really strong ranking factor again. So it kind of went away, or was sort of a little bit neutralized there for a little bit. But what you'll find is, what is old is always new. And so if you stick to the fundamentals of SEO, Google will constantly be tweaking their algorithm to try and weed out the sort of, the bad sites and people trying to manipulate their results. But the fact is, they've only got a certain range of parameters to play within. So you tend to find that sometimes they'll come back to certain ranking factors just to help, to be the tiebreaker between one website over another, because overall, there's probably about 200 different ranking factors plus that go into deciding which website ranks, above the other one. So taking care of on-page is the most important thing. But then there's a lot of other things that can go into it as well. So the other thing that I'll just stress at this point, so before we go any further, is that understand that with SEO, the best strategy in the world and the number one strategy in the world is, as he takes a sip of his coffee, is time. You just can't get away from it. So I'd argue that as a business looking at SEO, your job should always be looking or focusing on the long-term play here. So where do you want to be in 12 months? Where do you want to be in 2 years? You'll start to see little rises in between there, but the reality is it'll take 12 months before you see any sort of significant across the board sort of rises in the rankings. And so it's your job to really plant the seeds now, get everything structured correctly so that Google can actually work with your product, that you're talking Google's language, and then effectively you can just leave it there. And you have to do very little and just allow sort of Father Time to sort of do his magic, and then you'll eventually start to push up in the rankings. Now, okay, so we've gone through the page title and URL, so jumping back to the list of things you need to keep in your on page. Next one is to put your keyword in the H1 tag, so your heading, your first heading at the top. Again, if you're using WordPress and you're posting a blog post, this is generally taken care of for you in the page title, but it's just mindful in page builders just to make sure you've got the H1 allocated there, and make sure you don't have more than one H1. That's something that'll confuse Google as well. So make sure, and generally the H1, we're probably targeting the H1 to have almost exact match keyword. If it doesn't make sense, and again, this is where it's important, where if the keyword you're targeting doesn't make logical sense from a grammatical point of view, and from a sort of site user point of view, you may have to extend it, but where possible, try and keep it as exact as you can, just to make it crystal clear to Google. But just be mindful of the flip side of that, you don't want to over optimize and make it look unnatural. Okay, and so this is where number two will come in. This next one will come is H2. So there's a lot of people who argue against this, but we find that it really works, and that's having the keyword in your H2 title, but not a direct match, ensuring that it's a keyword variation. So you've got at least you've got a modifier within that keyword. So if you're sort of, for instance, if your target word's plumber Brisbane, then your H2 would need to be something like best plumber Brisbane or local plumber Brisbane. Be mindful that sometimes there are certain words that Google doesn't quite recognize as words. So if you were to put like the plumber Brisbane, that wouldn't count, or your plumber Brisbane, that wouldn't count. So you need to make sure that like all those sort of small sort of connector words, you don't use those as a modifier. You actually have a solid word in there that actually changes the structure and meaning of that actual keyword. So maybe if you're not sure of that one at first, don't go with the H2. You can always add that later. Once you've seen how your page is being indexed, you could go back in, and obviously, if you like, you can start quite moderate with all these and then just go back and start putting these in just bit by bit and seeing if it increases your rankings. So the next one is the keyword needs to be in your first sentence of your content. Now, so I'd even argue, or some people would say, that it needs to be the very first keyword in your content, and that certainly can help. Google definitely weights keywords to the front of content a lot stronger than the keywords to the back of content. And so that's when you're talking about keyword density as well, which is kind of the next thing that we're going to talk about, is ensuring that you've got at least a couple of keywords in the top sort of third of your content, and then sort of scattered as you go a bit lower. Look, there's a case to be made that you should also have the keyword in the last sentence of your blog as well, so you're kind of bookending the top and bottom. We've seen mixed results with this one, and again, it all depends on whether or not you can do it without looking like your keyword stuffing, because you really want a keyword density of, look, 1.5% to 2% maximum on your keyword density. Again, you'll read a lot of people saying that you should only have the keyword in there once, you should have it in less. That's okay, but look, we find you get the fastest results. And look, if you're 1.5 to 2% keyword density, you should be fine. Google prefers about a 1.5. Bing prefers around that sort of 2%. So that's why we sort of go a little bit stronger, is because we also want to rank our website in Bing and other search engines as well. And Bing's actually having a little bit of resurgence with the amount of traffic and usage that they're getting at the moment through the Cortana. So Cortana's their like Siri version of the voice search. So all their computers are now coming with Cortana, and I use it all the time as well. It's quite easy just to tap in and talk to Cortana or type in search there, and they'll actually search Bing. So we think that's probably where that resurgence is coming from. So it's not to be discredited, targeting Bing as well. And then that leads me into the next thing with the keywords, is using LSI or semantic keywords and tightly related keywords as well. Okay, so what this does is helps to sort of pull the content and helps Google really understand what the blog page is about. If you've got sort of just vanilla content, then these really specific keywords put into that content, Google can identify those keywords, but it's not 100% convinced yet that the content really is related to that keyword. So by using sort of LSI keywords, which are semantic keywords, which in the eyes of Google mean the same thing. The easiest way to find these is when you type in Google. So you search your keywords. So it's like you might be searching plumber Brisbane. As you're typing, you'll notice that Google suggests all these other keywords. So you'll start to see these bolded words pop up behind your target keyword and a list pop down. What you want to do is take a note of all those keywords, because what Google's telling you is these keywords are really related to the one that you're searching for. And so you might be able to take some of those keywords, put them into your content as well, and that'll help round out your actual sort of your topic in Google's eyes. The other thing to do is hit search on your keyword, scroll to the bottom of your searches, and at the bottom is that little section that says, I think it says related searches, or people also search for, it used to say, I think. And so there's a list of other keywords down there. And so just have a look at those keywords and just see if there's one or two that are related to your keyword topic that you can also sort of sprinkle into your copy. And that'll just help make your copy more rounded. It'll make Google sort of be more confident that you've actually covered off, the topic as sort of, as seen by Google. Okay, so that's LSI keywords. So if we're using Yoast, hang on, the next one, sorry, I've just got my notes in front of you. The next one is breadcrumbs. Again, you don't see a lot of sites using breadcrumbs anymore, probably mostly because they're not aesthetically appealing. So breadcrumbs are that little sort of link chain that you see at the top of a web page or a blog, where it shows you the home page, the category page, the content page. So it shows you, how you found yourself to this page. So effectively breadcrumbs as they sound, so you can find your way back to where you came from. They're really good because Google can actually index these and show them in your meta description over time. So they're good for navigation. They're good for SEO. Again, they're probably not going to be the hugest ranking factor, but they're important to have in there. But more importantly, Google can then index them, and they give you just a better sort of meta description structure in your search terms. Which brings you into the next one, which is putting your keyword in your meta description. Now, Google's not going to rank you because your keyword's in your meta description whatsoever, but it will bold that keyword. So if you've got the keyword in there, it'll help draw attention to there. And so what I say with meta description is really important, because that's how you get a higher click-through rate. So you should be testing and optimizing your meta title, which is the title, that little blurb that shows when you search something. So it's the little blurb that shows in the top 10 listings. By optimizing that, by having strong call to actions, by having something unique in there, it helps you just actually get people to click on your ad more. And if you get higher click-through rates, that's the first step, and it's a really strong indicator into Google then starting to pay more attention to you. Because if Google sees that you're getting more people go to your website, then the next challenge is making sure that the user experience on your website is, correct. And then, and then that's sort of, that's how you sort of win the game, because user experience, things like dwell time, page on time on site, these things are really important to Google, because they tell Google that you're actually interested in that topic. So next thing is also on page having your images on the page, multiple images, and ensuring that you actually, when you put the images on there, this is really important. Don't go over the top with this one, because you can, these actually count to the keyword density on the web page. So if you're sort of sitting at a 1.5% keyword density and you've got 2 images in there that are optimized with the keyword, I'd not recommend 2 images, just generally recommend doing 1, but that counts to the keyword total on that page. And so with images, it's important that even if you're using stock images, you actually download it and you change the file name. Okay, so you go to the properties and you change the file name to the actual keyword, change the description to the keyword that you're using, then upload it, because you then need to change the alt tag, which is the alt tag is sort of the tag that Google reads, but you don't want to have sort of like a, one of those random sort of URLs as a page title, like big stock, where it's got a bunch of sort of characters, and then you've got the alt tag as, plumber Brisbane, because Google can see that there's a mismatch there. So today, Google can't read images. They're getting closer. They can read some bold text if it's on a clear background, and the AI is sort of making inroads, but to be honest, they're not making fast enough inroads that you can see that I think Google's going to be able to read images anytime in the near future. So structuring your images and your alt tag is still really important. What I would generally do is with the images is have one with the main keyword, and then usually a couple of LSI keywords for the other images. With the image alt tags, if you've got the keyword in there, try and structure the keyword in a sentence. So if it's Brisbane plumber, try and structure it in a way that it might say something like local Brisbane plumber installing a tap. or something like that. So it reads well, and it actually makes sense. And where you can, and sort of going back to the page title, try and do that with your page title as well, as opposed to just stuffing in keywords. Try and make it descriptive of what's actually in the content. And then there's a couple other things. So within your content, using things like bullet points, using multimedia where you can, if you can put audio, if you can put video in there, it's really important. Make sure that video is actually optimized for a same or similar topic as well. And you usually put that onto YouTube and then embed that into the website itself. So once you've got those things nailed, that's kind of your website on page done. Now, the last thing is length of content. Now, length of content, again, there's a lot of reports saying that about 1,200 to 2,000 words is where you need to be at as a minimum, but it really depends on your competition. And so I would suggest always aiming for about 1,000 words just to be safe, even if your competition's only sort of using 500 words or less. But again, it also comes back to relevant. You don't just put content for the sake of content. Make sure it's good content where you're answering questions, you're being helpful, you're being logical. You're not just putting vomit copy up there that, yeah, it's got the word count, it's got the keywords, but it's rubbish content that no one actually wants to read. If you don't make it helpful, it's going to hurt your dwell time, it's going to hurt your user experience, your content won't get shared, you won't get social signals from it, and overall it's going to hurt your SEO in the long run. Which probably brings me to the next stage, is once you've got all of that sort of stuff dialed in, what you want to do, you can do this at this point, or you can do this obviously probably before. It even make more sense now that I'm thinking about it, is that just to do a little bit of research on what's actually working at the moment. Excuse me. So obviously, if you're targeting keyword plumber Brisbane, you just type that into Google, type that into Bing, and then you just see what are the top 3 rankings or top 3 websites or web pages that are ranking for that particular keyword. Because Google's telling you right there, this is what's important. Now, there are other ranking factors that go into those pages, the overall site domain authority, the backlink profile, these sort of things. So it's not just about page content, but again, this video is all about page content. So your first step is getting the page content structure right, and then you can worry about those external factors. So what you want to do is you want to Google the top 3 pages, just open them up, have a look at the images they're using, have a look at how many images that you're using, do an inspection on the actual image, and you can normally see the alt tag to see what they're actually targeting there. Have a look at how long their copy is, and then have a look at their keyword density. So you can just do a search tab, type in your keyword, and it will highlight all the keywords within that copy. So are they using video? Just take note of everything that they're doing, and your job is to kind of replicate what they're doing and then enhance it. Okay, so you want to sort of take note of all the things that are common, and you want to take note of who's doing it the best, and then your job is to then try and make your copy better than that, because without your copy being better than what's currently ranking, why would Google rank you number 1? At the end of the day, Google's all about serving the user, and you need to be able to create valuable content that the user actually wants to use. Therefore, Google can trust you and serve your web page over that competitor's website. So that's the basics in a nutshell of how to optimize your on-page SEO. As I said, I'm going to create a video, walkthrough video, where I'll take you through this on one of our sites over at Marketing HQ. So if you just go to yourmarketingcrew.com.au/marketing-HQ, there's a whole bunch of videos that we've created there to help you with your marketing. It's all free. You don't need to opt in with an email or anything. It's just kind of our way of sharing, I guess, the information that we've got and helping business owners out there. So a couple of little advanced tips which I've just written down here, which can help. Firstly, schema. So schema markup or rich snippets. Yeah, again, they're not going to be an initial ranking factor, but over time, as your page gets indexed, they can certainly help with click-through rate, and also, schema plays a tight role in voice search as well, so it helps to understand what the page is about. So using schema, which again we'll talk about in another video, using a table of contents is particularly if you're using long content. So if you've got sort of 2,000, 3,000 words, using a table of contents and structuring that correctly and marking that up, that can also be pulled over into your meta, which again can help you with your click-through rates as well. Monitoring page load speed, I talk about this a lot in multiple areas of marketing, but page load speed, I mean, the thing is with WordPress and these platforms is they're dynamic platforms, so whilst they're really user-friendly on our end, it also means that there's a lot more load and a lot more work that goes to actually populating those on the internet, unlike the old sort of static HTML sites. They're sort of dynamic platforms that are scripted through PHP, and so basically they've got to reload the whole platform every time that someone clicks on your page. So understanding how to use caching tools and these things to minimize your load speed is really important, because nobody is going to stay around for a website that's taking 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds to load. Another little tip is, if your website content's not really moving, going back and getting friends or getting people you know, don't overdo this. Be wary of buying comments as well, but actually related comments in the blog comments area is a great way to sort of refresh the content, plus sort of, get Google to pay a little bit more attention, because you can sort of put comments in there with nice structured keywords and things like that. So just a little one there. Look, the other one is with comments. Whenever you do create a blog post or you create content, remember to share it through your list. If you've got a mailing list, then mail it out and let everybody know that this is there, because people who are part of your sort of, I guess, herd or tribe, whatever you want to call it, yeah, they will often, interact with your content, and getting those comments and getting those fresh eyes, and there can be just little indicators to Google that the content's worth paying attention to. And so that brings me to the next one, is sharing it on social media. Share buttons don't really make too much of a difference. I would generally have them on a blog post, because you're always trying to get your content shared around the web. But certainly sharing it, and you can structure it up and use tools like Buffer or Hootsuite, where you can sort of schedule the content on loops. And with blog posts, particularly if it's evergreen content, share it over and over again. Don't share it once, share it a month later, share it 2 months later. Just continually keep pushing it out there, because every time you share on social media, generally it's getting seen by new people, because obviously social media's algorithms are so rubbish these days to the business owner that very rarely or never are you posting something and everybody in your list or everyone who likes your page is actually seeing all of your content. So don't be afraid to rehash and reshare your content, because every time it goes out there, potentially gets seen by somebody, they interact with it, there's a social signal, which again is a small ranking factor for your web page as well. And the last one I'll touch on is just to use tools like Grammarly or the Hemingway app. These are great machine-based tools that help you with your copy structure and your grammar. And there's also a tool called Fresh Kincaid, which is another tool which helps you just understand a little bit different. So Fresh Kincaid and the Hemingway app are more about sort of the difficulty of reading. So ideally with your content, you want to read it at a grade 4 level, because that's the level that the average sort of adult can read at, is literally a grade 4 level. So you don't want to overcomplicate your content. Using Grammarly is really cool. It's a free tool, purely because, look, I've heard different things, but I kind of do believe this, that it sort of works in the way that Google reads a page. So even if Grammarly goes through and picks up sort of 4 or 5 sort of grammatical errors, I recommend just making those changes based on their recommendations, because effectively that's how Google's interpreting your website, and Google doesn't want to see sort of grammatical errors in your content, because it'll obviously just mark you down a little bit as well. So there you go. That's how to do on-page SEO. As I said, for anyone that's interested, I will do a walkthrough video on my marketing HQ, and once that's live, I'll actually send it out through Facebook as well. So if you want to sort of follow me there, you will get that firsthand. But if you've got any questions about on-page SEO, feel free to leave me a comment below. If you've got any suggestions for future videos or something that you'd like me to do a video on, absolutely just leave me a comment, and we're more than happy to do that. So thanks for joining us on today's podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow for another one. Enjoy the rest of your day.